Mills. The president's physician just updated us on his progress, saying the president was doing very well, but sources close to the president have concerns about how his health is developing. Joining us to break down this news and more is Jordan Fabian, Bloomberg White House reporter. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us on this very hectic news day. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here. Yeah, thanks.
So, Jordan, can you just tell me what we know right now from this press conference and what you're hearing from sources?
Yeah, so we heard a very upbeat message from the president's physician just a few minutes ago from Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, where he's being treated, saying that the president's condition is good. He hasn't needed oxygen today. His fever has gone down. But then right afterwards, we heard from a high-placed source close to the president that his condition over the last 24 hours was very concerning, prompting his move to Walter Reed, and that the next 48 hours are critical and that it's not certain how this recovery is going to go. So while we heard that, again, that upbeat message, it's still not clear how well the president is going to recover from this virus, which of course has killed over 200,000 Americans.
And tell me about the timeline here, because the president's medical team mentioned 72 hours, but previously had said the diagnosis came 48 hours ago and then issued a correction just moments ago about saying 72 hours. So what is the timeline here? What are we looking at?
Right. So it's another point of confusion. And this is a point, I will say, where we really need precision and accuracy from the president's medical team and the White House staff. And they're already having to clear up some of these discrepancies. We heard from a White House official after this press conference that no, the president was not necessarily infected on Wednesday. We're hearing that from the medical team and other officials that he had a PCR test, which is the big long swab that goes up your nose, on Thursday, and that result was reported late Thursday night, which confirmed the president's positive COVID-19 diagnosis.
And talk to me about treatment options for the president. We know he's received remdesivir. What else do we know about precautions being taken in any treatments he's getting so far?
Right. So he got treatment of by the company Regeneron, which uses a combination of antibodies, which is thought to help reduce the symptoms and reduce the amount of time it takes to sort of suffer those symptoms. I will point out that treatment has not received approval from the Food and Drug Administration, nor has it received emergency use authorization. It is in trials. They've said they've had some positive results. And this is something that we're told the president's medical staff requested from Regeneron, and that they gave subsequently to the medical team at the White House on a quote unquote compassionate use request. So the president trying some experimental treatments at this stage, in addition to remdesivir, which has emergency use authorization. We heard from Sean Conley, the White House physician, that his approach is he doesn't want to leave anything off the table, that he wants to try everything possible to try and treat the president.
And Dr. Sean Conley also mentioned that the president is not currently on oxygen, and then kind of hedged questions from reporters about whether he'd previously received any oxygen. What are the White House pool reporters thinking about this? What is the takeaway here? Has the president received any form of oxygen?
That's a great discrepancy you just pointed out. The Sean Conley, the White House physician, was a bit dodgy in answering that question about whether the president has at some point received oxygen. He said that he didn't receive it on Thursday, which is when he first tested positive, or so we're told. He said at one point that he didn't receive it on Friday, but then said that he did not receive oxygen while at Walter Reed on Friday, and that puts that time frame after 6:30 p.m. or so. And then he said he didn't receive it today. That leaves a window at the White House when the president was there on Friday where he may have received it. We don't know if he did or not, but if we're going off the information that we received from that high-placed source that his condition wasn't so great over the past 24 hours, then it's conceivable that he did. But again, we don't have any confirmation that he was on oxygen at that stage.
What was your biggest takeaway from this press conference? You've covered the White House for a long time. What is going through your head right now as you're getting all of this news?
Well, of course, just the magnitude of the news that the president has tested positive for COVID-19 is just seismic. I mean, this is a huge deal. This is implications, obviously, for national security, for the campaign, even for the Supreme Court nomination process, since a bunch of other senators have now tested positive. But with this news conference in particular, it goes back to the point that this White House has really struggled to give out accurate and timely information about the president's condition. We first learned that the president tested positive, late Thursday night, early Friday, and it took until Saturday morning for us to hear from the president's physician. And then at that stage, he was giving out information that seemed, a bit dodgy, that wasn't really so clear on the oxygen point, for example. He wouldn't say when the president first tested positive. He wouldn't give out what the president's temperature was. And of course, the American people want this information, and we need it to know, how the president's doing and what his condition is, and to make sure that he's healthy and able to govern the country.
And it's not just President Trump who has gotten this diagnosis. It's several others in his administration and just in his circle more broadly. And it seems like we're getting a new diagnosis every half hour here from another individual. But can you talk me through just some of the folks, even from this morning, who've gotten a COVID-19 diagnosis?
Yeah, one that just came out right before this press conference is New Jersey Governor Christie. He was, obviously, you wouldn't think that this is a huge deal, but he was at the White House on Saturday for that confirmation or the nomination event for Coney Barrett, the president's Supreme Court nominee. So he was outside, around 150 guests or so, high-level White House officials, members of Congress, conservative activists, the president, the Supreme Court nominee, and her family. He was also at the White House on Sunday for a news conference that the president held with reporters. I was in the room for that one. He was sitting next to Rudy Giuliani. Those two men were involved in debate prep for the president behind closed doors on Sunday. And then he was back at the White House on Monday. So he had exposure to a lot of people, high-level people at the White House, including the president. And we're just, again, learning that, Senator Ron Johnson tested positive. This is someone who's, key Republican senator. I mean, the list goes on and on. I did learn today that Rudy Giuliani, the one who I just mentioned, actually tested negative yesterday. So he's in the clear as of right now. But we're still have a huge list of officials to go through. And of course, they'll be coming and getting tested in the coming days to see if this is something that is incubating and they might test positive in the future.
And you mentioned, Jordan, Judge Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation ceremony. I'm wondering what you are thinking about whether or not this is classified as a super spreader event, given the amount of people we know who attended and are now positive.
That's a great question. It's hard to say whether that was the triggering event, that was the super spreader, but it certainly looks like a lot of people who attended that event have come down with coronavirus. I will point out too that I mentioned the debate prep. There are certain officials who were involved in that debate prep who ended up testing positive, who were not at the Saturday ceremony for Amy Coney Barrett. Bill Stepien, the president's campaign manager, has tested positive. We have learned he was involved in debate prep, not at that event. So we're all still trying to figure out who was patient zero, essentially, and what was the event that sickened Hope Hicks and then the president, and whether those two cases are related and in what way. This is a huge, massive contact tracing endeavor. The president has been around hundreds, if not thousands of people, if you count his rallies and all the events he's done between last Saturday and today. So the White House and others are still going through this and trying to figure it out.
And do we know whether or not Trump was tested the day of the debate? We know Joe Biden was tested that day and was negative. What happened with Trump the day of the debate?
We still don't know. We're told the president is tested on a regular basis. We don't know if that meant daily up until his diagnosis, obviously, on Thursday. We heard from Chris Wallace, the debate moderator, that the president showed up late to
Jordan,
the
we're losing you.
Cleveland debate site and therefore was not able to. So he said something along the lines of that they were relying on the honor system, that he had in fact been tested. And
Jordan, we are losing you a little bit, so I'm just going to update our viewers here. Jordan was just explaining to us that Chris Wallace mentioned that Donald Trump did show up late to the debate on Wednesday and was not able to get a COVID-19 test, and therefore they kind of went by an honor system, essentially. Jordan, if we still have you, do you want to elaborate on that a little more? I think we don't have Jordan anymore, but for those of
yeah,
you
do you have me?
I think, okay, Jordan, do we have you? Do you want to update us on what happened the day of the debate?
Yeah, so on the day of the debate, the president didn't show up in time to get that test at the Cleveland Clinic, and so they were relying on the honor system, according to Chris Wallace, the debate moderator. So we don't know for sure if he tested negative the day of the debate.
Jordan, what has it been like for you covering this? You just mentioned that you've been in the room with several officials who've tested positive for COVID. I'm wondering, just as a reporter and a human, how that impacts you, and are you concerned for your health?
Well, thank you for asking about how I'm doing. I'm feeling fine right now. I tested negative yesterday. I was at the White House yesterday to cover the president's departure for Walter Reed. So hopefully that continues to be the case. But I will point out that 3 journalists at the White House have tested positive for COVID-19. I think we're all trying to practice the health guidelines as much as we can. Reporters who are covering the White House, at the White House, also on Air Force One, are wearing masks anytime that we're doing that. We try to limit the number of reporters who are showing up to the White House to cover the president, not allowing the full White House press corps in on any given day. But I will point out that for the Saturday event for Amy Coney Barrett, the White House ended up credentialing many more journalists than are usually allowed under COVID-19 restrictions. And so, again, that event looks like it could be something that really has maybe, if not caused the spread, accelerated it to the wider Republican universe.
Absolutely. Jordan, thank you so much for your time this morning. I know you've got a very busy day covering this breaking news for us, so we will let you go. But for those of you watching, you can continue to get your updates on this developing story by following Bloomberg Quick Take on all social platforms, wherever you get your news. And thank you so much for making time to join us today.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Marita.